Hey guys, my name is Angela and today I'm going to be talking about disability and chronic illness representation in books. After I read the book, A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemner, I knew that I had to do this discussion video. So this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling about a girl with cerebral palsy. And for those of you who don't know what cerebral palsy is, it is a birth injury that occurs in the brain, either shortly before the baby is born or shortly after. And like Harper, I too also have cerebral palsy. So reading this book was one of the best experiences that I've ever had. I related to Harper so much as a character, not only because of her cerebral palsy, but because of her personality and just her attitude about things. And what I love about Harper is that she never feels bad for herself and she never lets her disability define who she is as a person. And that point is brought forward very much so in this book, and I think that that's such an important point because your physical illnesses or disabilities or whatever, they don't define who you are as a person. In my opinion, they make us better people, they make us stronger people, they make us more resilient, they make us more empathetic, and they make pretty badass characters. So in this book, Harper talks about how she rides horses for her CP, for physical therapy, and I related to that very much so because I also do the same thing. When I was little, I used to wear little plastic braces on my legs. I was quite the fashion icon. Now I just get injections every 3 months, but the cerebral palsy rep in this book was so good, and I just have to thank Bridget for that. Now, the thing about cerebral palsy is it really ranges in the severity. Unfortunately, there are some people who have a very severe case of cerebral palsy, and it can affect their arms, their legs, even their speech and fine motor skills. I would define Harper's case and my own case as a mild case. Definitely an inconvenience, but not necessarily a full life game changer. But that's not the point. The point is that this story isn't about cerebral palsy. It's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. The main character just happens to have it. So if you're interested, I would definitely love to film a spoiler review of A Curse So Dark and Lonely, because for the purpose of this video, I'm only discussing the cerebral palsy aspects because they relate directly to what I'm talking about. I loved the book. I tabbed the heck out of it. Hi, Bridget. So now I'd like to get to the second half of the video, which is the discussion portion, in which I share my thoughts and talk about why I think this representation is so important and so necessary. So reading about something that I personally struggle with was such a life-changing moment for me, and I really don't mean to sound dramatic, but it's kind of big when you read a story and you see yourself in it. And you see yourself as the main character and you're like, this could be me. It was just such an amazing experience, and I think that just goes to show the importance of representation and the importance of diversity and inclusivity in books. Now, all the books with chronic physical illnesses I've read have been more of books that are books about cancer or another deadly chronic illness, and I think those books are important, and I think authors should keep making them, and that is wonderful representation. But the stories that contain those things also, that's usually a very big focal point of the story. But I think it's important to have representation in books in different ways as well. There are so many different chronic illnesses out there that incorporating them into the story is such a creative thing to do. An author could really be creative with the chronic illness or the disability that they choose to incorporate in their story. And the chronic illness or disability doesn't have to be the point of the story, because that wasn't the point of A Curse So Dark and Lonely. It was just another part of Harper, another one of her struggles, and it just made her more of a person and just more realistic and more relatable, and you felt for her as a person, but you didn't necessarily feel bad for her, you just felt for her. And I think that that's so important. And I think that there's so many things that could easily be incorporated into books. I think a big chronic illness that could easily be incorporated into books is diabetes. And I know a lot of people out there suffer from diabetes. And you could just have a main character with diabetes or a side character, And I just think that would be awesome. Whatever else you want to write, whatever else, but just the main character with diabetes, whether it's in a fantasy or a contemporary or a horror or whatever. I just think that including these physical illnesses and disabilities make people more realistic. And I think that it's so important to give those specific illnesses representation, as well as the people reading them, because it really is amazing to read about something that you struggle with and be able to relate directly to it and see yourself in the book. I think disability and chronic illness representation in books is so important, and it's something that I would love to see more of in the future, because the truth is there are so many young adult readers and just readers in general who do struggle from chronic illness or disability, and just making them feel included is one of the best things that you can do. Also, just educating. I mean, I'm sure that there were some people who read A Curse So Dark and Lonely and didn't know what cerebral palsy was. And by reading it, maybe they Googled, what is cerebral palsy? And then you're just educating people more and more on specific things. And I think that that's just so important. I would love to know what everybody else thinks in the comments down below. Please recommend any books with any good illness representation or disability representation, or just whatever your own thoughts, your opinions. I would love to just really have a big discussion about this and the importance of disability and chronic illness representation in books. I wanted to make this video short and sweet, but if you want me to go more in depth or something in the future, please let me know, because like I said, I am advocating for this. I want to see this. This means the world to me, and I know that it means the world to a lot of other people too. And I want to be that voice for maybe the people who don't want to use theirs. So thank you so much for watching, and please let me know what you think in the comments, and have a great day.